Chanpreet and I have always talked about this. Be like a man. It raises many questions, at least in my mind. And the question always comes up, do we have to be like a man to be successful? Hopefully, today we'll shed some light on that. But before that, a very, very good evening and a warm welcome. Today on Sipping Thoughts, we have a very exciting talk from a very good friend of mine. Do women need to act like men to succeed in the workplace, with Chanpreet Arora, who is right now a business consultant, but she was the former CEO of Voice Media in India. In this session, Chanpreet will help us understand the evolution of the workplace. She will tell us about the changing parameters of success for corporations and individuals and management of stereotypes at the workplace. Chanpreet will also walk us through the awareness and the management of the self, as well as sensitize us to the social structures, which can be key towards us being successful. Before we continue, I would, of course, like to tell you a bit about Sipping Thoughts. Sipping Thoughts is a multi-platform media company that was co-founded by me, Sukirti, and Meeta Gudgutia. It was set up keeping in mind the tagline, Real Women, Real Thoughts. We wanted to create a no-judgment platform and create a network of women for women. Sipping Thoughts is available on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube, and of course, do check out our website. You'll find a lot of interesting content there. And now the woman that we have been waiting for, and about our speaker. So a little bit about Chanpreet. I know she doesn't need any introduction, but Chanpreet is a recognized leader in the Indian media industry. Her work over the last 18 years has included the launch of leading international and local media brands in India, including Formula One. She is currently an independent consultant and is advising New York Times on their India business, as well as a few early stage startups. Earlier, she led the team as CEO for the launch of the global youth brand Vice as a full-scale media company in India. She completed the prestigious fellowship at the Reuters Institute for Study of Journalism at Oxford University in 2019. And there's so many things we can say about Chanpreet, but personally, I can tell you she's one of the most fun and open people that I've ever met. Some house rules before we go on. Yes, you're all on mute, but we would want the session to be as interactive as possible. Please keep chatting with us. Please keep sending us your questions, your thoughts. If you're familiar with Zoom, please do use the Zoom feature and raise your hand. We will unmute you. We would like you to ask your question yourself. But please try to keep the question related to the topic and to point. And as always, please do forgive us for any technology glitches. With that, I think we're ready to get started, and a very, very warm welcome to Chanpreet. Chanpreet, welcome to Sipping Thoughts.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here. And I want to start with saying I am really nervous that my internet connection may give me a lot of trouble through this hour. So please be patient. It's a small price we pay for living in heaven called Himalayas here. No point in making you more jealous. But let me just start with telling you something about myself, which is not really about my resume, right? I have done whatever I wanted to do in my life, and I'm very privileged, right? And I think it's a very fair statement to make that if you have dreams, that's not enough. You have to have the courage to follow them. And everything comes with a price. There is a lot of struggle. There are no shortcuts to it. But if you want it, you go do it. That's been my motto. I never saw myself as a woman. I never saw myself as a man. I just saw myself as somebody who wanted to get to a goal, and I was going to do whatever it took to do it. Over the last 18 years, working with people, I started understanding that that's not how the world sees what they are being presented with, and which has been a long journey of realization. And I just want to share some experiences today to be able to help probably put things in perspective, which can help us stop reacting to situations and start creating situations which work for us, so that we respond to them rather than just react to it and feel either victimized or ousted from the very plan that you set out to begin. So let me just share my favorite story from last year. Friday evening, what is the best thing you do on a Friday evening? You probably you sip a glass of wine with a friend. That's exactly what we would do in Oxford. And all the fellows would get some more friends along, and it would be the best way to meet people. And I met this lovely lady, name obviously changed, Dr. Martha from Oslo. And she said, I'm Dr. Martha. And I assumed it's another PhD student or postdoctoral student. And I was like, okay, so what's your thesis? And she says, what thesis? I'm a surgeon. And I was totally starry-eyed. Here I was meeting a 31-year-old surgeon from Oslo. And I was like, wow, I want to know everything about you. How's your life? What is the surgeon's life like? And quickly the conversation moved on, and I realized that this was a woman who was craving to have children and was really disappointed that she was not in a relationship. It took me a minute to recalibrate the conversation, and I asked her, I said, so what kind of a relationship are you looking for? And she said, I want children, so I'm looking for a stable relationship, and my last one didn't work out. And I tried to nudge her, trying to be politically correct. I tried to nudge her and saying, I've noticed that all the big bankers who are very successful, the male bankers or the female bankers, tend to choose people who are from not so very heavy duty professions. So she turned around and she said, that's exactly right. I was really hoping I'd get to marry a nursery school teacher. And I'm like, what? And she said, yes, I am a surgeon. There are demanding hours of a surgeon. There cannot be two surgeons in a relationship. There has to be somebody who picks up the kids from school, takes care of them. It doesn't mean that the relationship is not equal. It just means that there is a collaboration and there's a relationship and there's a strong understanding, but of a different kind compared to what the society is used to. And I must admit, for the first time, that I really wanted to go to Finland and understand how is it that in the last 30 years they had built this strong education system where gender equality had taken precedence and how it was changing its society. Well, that actually takes us to the starting of our conversation, which is to say that there are no gender biases really, except in your own head. If women are ambitious, so is everybody, right? It's up to us as to how we deal with it. So while the world puts ambitious people, women especially, in a silo and say, okay, you're an ambitious woman, but life is larger than that. Dr. Martha's conversation tells us that she is ambitious about life, not just about her profession, and she has personal clarity on what she really wants, right? So today what we're going to talk about is really, how we've got here, what has been the evolution of the workplace, what are the stereotypes that we deal with, and how we can change this to work for you as a woman, or as anybody, as an ambitious person who has personal as well as professional ambitions, how you can create an ecosystem for it to work for you better. So I don't know who doesn't know this man, but I definitely do. The evolution of the workplace really looks a little bit like him, right? It started with the Industrial Revolution. The white male was the center of this Industrial Revolution and the corporate structure that we still subscribe to, right? Which is what? Which is a person comes to office and gives his entire time, attention, fully devoted to work, because somebody at home, a white woman or a woman with kids, nannies, is taking care of everything, right? And this is not just what the family does for you, but this is also what the society expects of the man. Success has historically been defined as quantifiable profits, margins, and market share. And an organizational structure is designed to consume 100% of your time. I've often, I'm sure my friends in London would agree, I've often heard some of them say, I need a nanny. And I'm talking about very successful women who don't have kids saying, I just need a nanny to take care of everything at home because I need to work, right? Where is the gender role in that? It is not a gender role. It is what the corporations have defined. But luckily for us, things are changing, right? I just want to ask you guys, ladies, sorry. I just want to ask you, how many of you, Sorry, how many of you are familiar with these leaders and why they've been in the news recently?
Please do keep chatting with us if you recognize them. Who are they?
So I just wanted to share that, yes, Madhvi, right. Does anyone want to, anybody want to share that besides being the leaders of their countries, what has really made all of them stand out more recently and otherwise as well? Yes, thanks, Ekta. Yes, management of corona. There is a very detailed article that came out on their styles of management, and one of the very strong, yes, no lockdown as well. I'm not sure Germany didn't have a lockdown. Germany did have a lockdown, but yes, the way they have managed the disease and the spread of it was absolutely brilliant. And there are two very important things that came out in their style of management, which is their inclusion of inclusion and diversity. They included insights and inputs from external advisors. They allowed dissent, and they were able to create models which were not just based on past success, but based on the situation that they were presented with, and were able to deal with it much better. Which actually takes us to a very important point, that the definition of success, even for corporations, is changing dramatically. Why do we say that? Earlier, we spoke about how only market share, profits, targets was the only measure of success. But today, and I'm saying this from personal experience, corporations are being judged based on their contribution to society, their consciousness, their empathy, their diversity in leadership. And what is a corporation but actually a representation of their leaders? what women what women embody as EQ, as empathy, as compassion, is actually what corporations are being measured by as well today. So yes, there is a strong change that is happening from a person being required to be entirely dedicated to the job and being very number driven, or being only loyal to the job, to being an individual and contributing as an individual to the society as well as the job. But the stereotypes are still there, right? And the stereotypes are still difficult for us to manage, because they actually create a lot of self-doubt. I just want to read out some of the sentences that I have heard, some of the comments I have heard often in my career. I just want to ask you a question at this point in time. Have you ever felt that the odds were always against you and you had to prove yourself at every stage in the corporation to gain trust? Yeah, I didn't realize that, honestly, that it was, yes. Thank you, Anu. So I didn't realize that I had to do this harder till the year I decided to get married in 2006. And I was passed over for a promotion. And it really hit me hard. Okay. And I couldn't believe it. That I was like, but I was the best performing candidate till 2 months ago. Okay. And I was honestly, I honestly, if I was a male, I would have created a ruckus. But what did I do at that point in time? I said, no, I'm going to prove myself that there is a standard bias against me. I'm not saying I was wrong or right, but I realized that there was a strong bias against me because I was in a very high powered profession, very well paying, lot of travel, and maybe women used to drop out. I didn't know. Okay, and that was 14 years ago, so maybe women did. I don't know. So here's what I did. I stayed. And that I stayed in that job, and I went to many other jobs, and I continued to hear as my stages of life changed, from being married, from being single to being married to being a working mom, the kind of things you'd hear. And my favorite one was when I was walking into a boardroom for a negotiation on targets, and I was on the other side handing out the targets. The person who was taking the target from me, he said, how do you feel when your child cries in the morning when you leave for office? And I just looked at him and I was like, is this what he would ask a man if we were going in for a boardroom negotiation? So I turned around and said, have you asked your wife this? And he's like, yes, I have asked my wife. And I said, what does she do? So he said, she's a school teacher. I said, very well. But what does she tell you? So he said, she said she doesn't care. I'm like, you're married to a very smart woman and your target just went up by 20%. That's it. I don't want any conversation anymore. So I also realized, and that's a really important realization, it's not personal. There is social and cultural conditioning. People are just culturally conditioned to believe that men are in certain spaces. I'm not saying it's true in London or Toronto or Bombay or Delhi or Bangalore, but I'm saying that in certain places and in certain cultures, there's just this expectation that a woman is the primary caregiver at home. And so she must be feeling guilty. I just want to make a declaration here, and it's for the record. I have zero guilt for my ambition. And that's my personal point of clarity. Okay. I love what I do. And when I don't love it, I move on. And there is no need for you to be guilty for who you are. There is no need for there to be any benchmark for you, because there is no benchmark of any human being. You are individual, you're unique, you have gone through your own set of experiences. What you want to be is right. You just need to now build from that point of clarity and build an ecosystem that works for you. So that takes us to a very interesting question, and this is my question to you. There's a statistic, and there are lots of statistics in Oxford, right, flying around, but this is my favorite statistic, that till the late 20s, till women decide to get to have children or get married, whichever one happens later, is actually more about having children. They are at par in pay packages and promotions with the male counterparts, but the moment they have children, they fall behind. And by the time they hit another decade, they're almost at 50%, if not lower, than their male counterparts whom they were competing with head to head. I want to ask you, what do you think is the reason that the men don't get affected? And this is true across continents, right? America, Europe, everywhere. This is true everywhere. What do you think they are doing, right? Yeah, they don't take a break, right? So, Geeti, but why don't they take a break? Why is there no pressure on them to take a break? What are they doing right that they don't need to take a break? Why is their wife not asking them to take a break? Why are you not asking them to take a break? It's a question to us. Geeta, right? Yes, absolutely right, Geeta. That
Tanpreet, there's some static coming. I think if you could move the papers from near the speaker. Thank you. Perfect. Thank you. Your cheat notes, Tanpreet.
So that I don't go, yeah. So I want to ask you, right, at this point in time, has any one of you asked your husband or your partner to take a break so that you could be at work? Why, I understand that, the man doesn't take a break because you did, Madhvi, and I hope he agreed. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, and I think that is the answer, right? That is the answer. That are we asking are we creating our own ecosystem? Are we changing our reality, or are we just accepting what was given to us because that's the way things are done, right? It is not male or female. It is every person who is successful, honestly, has been able to align their personal goals, their work culture, and their familial and social structure to be able to nurture their ambition. Let me just share another story with you. I decided to have my second child at the age of 36, and my husband was like, "Are you kidding me?" And I said, "No, no, I really want to have a second child because I was supposed to have a daughter and we had a boy. This is not going to work out." And I love my son to death, and as Ekta and Rayan would know, but I really wanted a daughter. Um, and we decided to have a kid. And I'll tell you very honestly what my husband's objection was. My husband's objection was that, "I know what you're going to do. You're going to have the second child, you're going to leave the child with me, and you're going to run away for a meeting. And I am not willing to do this, right? Because I have a career too. We are two alphas in very strong careers. And I decided that we really wanted to push for a second child. We have our second child, and a very old colleague of mine turns up to congratulate me 10 days after Meher was born. He came with a job offer. And I was like, "No, I promised my husband, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to think this through. I have taken responsibility to be a mother of two. I don't know if I can come back into a consulting role, which a job that requires a lot of travel. I don't think I can do it." I was very clear I had decided to be a mother, and that was going to be my first priority, irrespective of who I was. So I am a very ambitious person, but my ambition and the definition of my ambition in my 20s before I got married was very different from the definition that I had to define for myself when I chose to get married. It's not easy, but and then I realized how difficult it really was when I decided to become a mother. So here I was looking at this guy who had come with a really interesting job offer, saying, "I'm sorry, I can't take it because I'm not sure this fits into my personal goals." And he said, "Okay, lay it out for me. Because I've worked with you in the past, I want to know what is it that will make it work." And I laid out the most unreasonable list you can think of. Everything that makes us feel like, "Oh my God, am I being professional? This is a very unprofessional conversation." As I want to breastfeed my child till she's 1. I don't want to leave my child till she's 4 months old, because I did leave. I went back to work when my first child was 38 days old. I still regret it. I want to stay home for 3 months. And I don't want to travel. And I want the flexibility to have one day work from home, because I don't know when he's going to fall ill or she's going to fall ill. And, I need all that flexibility. So this guy looks at me, and I don't know whether he could have his coffee after that or not. But I got the job. Okay. I got the job, but I had to compromise. Thank you, Harsh. But I had to compromise on my pay package. I did take a lower level in terms of seniority as well. It was a big blow to my ego to move from a corner office to a outside, what do we call this? Those open plan
Cubicles.
workspaces. I can tell you, for 5 days, I just wanted to hide, and I would go back home and I'm like, "Why am I doing this to myself? Why am I doing this to myself?" And you saw my previous slide, right, where people would say, "ऐसी भी क्या आपको जरूरत थी कि आप इतने छोटे बच्चे को छोड़ के आ गए?" And these are women as well. No, I'm not just talking about men giving you those comments. I went back to work. I had the most empathetic boss who actually told me that you are important to this organization and we are going to make this work. If it wasn't for an empathetic boss, I don't think I would have made it. Right. And I thought, this is it. I have made it. I have got there. And so my life began. So this personal clarity gave me a job that that gave me an opportunity to grow and be a mother at the same time. But a good empathetic boss is not everything, right? You need to have collaboration from your colleagues. You need to have collaboration from your family, your husband. Are you doing co-parenting? Let me give you a very simple example. And this is a really important one. When I went back to work, the only request I had made was that if I can't go back to feed my child during the day, which we can't most of the time at work, even if we try, like I could make it twice a week, I'd like a room for breastfeeding. It took me 3 months, two threats to resign, one public showdown with the admin department, and finally a very stern mail to my very empathetic boss who lived in Bombay while I was in Noida to say, I'm sorry, but I resign because I don't think this organization understands or respects what a working mom needs. It is when I wrote such a strong email did I realize that the HR was finally informed, because the admin didn't even bother informing HR that there was a woman here asking for a breastfeeding room. The head of admin actually had the audacity to tell me that, why would you want to do this? And I said, yeah, you're not the father of my child, right? And of course, the CHRO apologized, the CEO apologized, which didn't feel like a victory, honestly. It felt really terrible, right? I mean, having been here for so long. Any case, one day I went to the desk and I said, can I have the keys to the feeding room? And they said, sorry, ma'am, there's waiting. It was the best afternoon of my work day, because I realized there were women coming out of woodwork, literally. Somebody had been feeding, somebody had been expressing in the loo, disgusting. Somebody had been expressing in the gym, hiding in a corner, but nobody had the courage to stand up because they didn't think anybody would listen. And this was one experience that made me realize that if you think you're doing this for yourself, don't think that. Especially if you're a senior person, please do it for others. When you realize that what you do today is going to impact a whole generation, is going to impact a whole organization, even if that meant 5 women got the dignity of being a working mom, it made me happy, right? And that led to a big change. We pushed HR to build better communication for working moms. We 6-month maternity leave got announced, and a whole lot of changes came. And I'm not taking credit for it, because the Indian law had come in by then and it had to get executed. But I just felt like, I'm glad I had the courage to do it, right? And it's not easy. If you feel that at 22 I don't have the negotiation power because I'm an early jobber, trust me, it doesn't get easy at 36, okay? Or it doesn't get easy at 40. But you have to have the conviction, the personal clarity of who you are, and then collaborate. And because we had been very clear right from the beginning that I am a working mother, my manager had no choice but to help, I think, but he was actually a really good guy too, right? And the third and the most important thing that really makes the difference as to whether you sustain your success or not is how you build your social system. And this is where and this is where co-parenting is absolutely the key. You have to understand that when a man goes to work, he's celebrated for his professional and financial success. Nobody asks him कि आज तुमने हलवा बनाया कि नहीं, you know, and nobody asks him that did you breastfeed your child for 1 year or 2 years. Okay, it doesn't matter. It's my personal decision. Whether I have children, I don't have children. Whether I marry, I don't marry. If I choose to do something, it's my choice, established. But when I'm choosing to do this, I need to be sure that I'm honest with the people I'm choosing to do this with. Because you can't think that, oh my God, I shouldn't be talking about the fact that, hey, you know what, I expect you to put in as many nights as I'm putting in so that I can work. I got offered the job to become vice CEO, and my first reaction was, I don't know if I can do it, because this will mean I have to forget about my work life balance. I have to start going for client meetings, I have to start traveling 4 days a week. And I came home and I was looking like a batsman who'd been knocked out at zero, okay? Because I really wanted the job and it had come my way. And I really wanted to do it, but I didn't have the courage to say it till my husband really encouraged me to say, you really want this job. And you have done so much to make this family structure work. It's my time to contribute. I am willing to give you 1 year till you're able to set up this organization and bring it to stability. I will cut back on my work hours. And I was so shocked. I was like, are you sure you can do this? And he said, I will do it in any case, whether you take up this job or not, because I also want to be a part of my child's upbringing. Yes. And it was I almost didn't believe him for a week. Okay. So I still held back my decision for a week. And yes, very sensitive husband, I must admit. And a lot of credit goes to him. And and you know, the kind of things that the men have to go through. He went for a PTM, which I couldn't attend, and there were many that I missed. And the class teacher asked him, "Where's Mrs. Dayal?" So he had to say, first of all, it's Mrs. Arora. She has not changed her name, and I'm okay with that. And secondly, we are both moms and we are both fathers. When we play roles based on our availability, we are not making it gender specific. So you need to be sensitive enough to understand that we are both co-parenting and taking equal responsibility. There is a lot of pressure on the other side too, being called a henpecked husband rather than being a supportive and sensitive person. We need to be very sensitive as well when we take that decision. We it it was one of the most eye-opening experiences of my life, but it actually gave me a very interesting structure that made me realize that if we implement this structure, all of us can absolutely achieve our goals that we want. It's a very simple system. You need to be really clear on what you want, communicate that point of clarity to everybody who matters, whether it is your manager, your work colleagues. Choose an organization which has a work culture that works for you and them, and make sure that your family and societal structures are aligned to nurture your ambition, because it's only you can be you and successful. No, you can't live somebody else's dream or vice versa. Thank you for listening.
Well, that was very, very, of course, always very interesting. But I have a question, because this, when you say personal clarity and this communication, I mean, I've always found, and I'm going to open it up to questions from everybody. We have quite a few coming in. Uh, that how do you get this personal clarity? It sounds easier because I know that there are three main phases. You talk about before you get married, if you choose to get married, and then, of course, when you choose to be a mother. And these are very, very difficult times where the clarities possibly are changing. And how do we balance within that? And I would like to take Rosa's question next. Rosa, if you could, please do unmute yourself. And then I would like to take Geeta's after that.
Hi, Chanpreet, great presentation. Just wondering, what are your thoughts? Do you think it's tougher for women in a non-unionized setup in an organization than it is where their rights are better protected with them being a part of a union, trade union?
So, Rosa, I'll be very candid. I have never worked in a unionized structure, right? So I wouldn't be able to comment on how that is. In fact, it'll be great to know your perspective on that. But I'll share with you what happens in a non-unionized structure. You're absolutely right. It's like, you have to be very careful about your team and your manager. Everything, your experience gets defined by who your manager is, what your team culture is. If the organization culture is not is meritorious, one has a lot of women in the leadership and across levels, and thirdly has a significant amount of working women there, these are very important markers which will tell you that this is a good organization, which will understand that being professional doesn't mean not having a personal life. And the one last point I've usually felt is that where an organization is largely meritorious and has very strong structures and processes, those organizations do land up adjusting very well to working moms.
Thanks.
Geeta, go ahead.
Yeah, hi. A very nice presentation, ma'am. And I echo a lot of your thought process. The only difference of opinion I do have is that having worked in a corporate organization for more than 30 years
Right.
and having seen fight women to really prove themselves, despite the fact that most of the time women tend to show their capabilities and credibilities very openly. My experience has been that women really have to work harder than men to prove themselves, even in today's times.
It's true.
So my question is that when the society that we are living in has predefined roles, it skews the situation and the viewing of the situations. How do you overcome that?
So I agree with you, Geeta. Thank you for that. That is a reality, what you are sharing, that it is women tend to have to work harder to prove themselves. I've also noticed one very interesting thing, that women have a need to be valid, and I'm guilty of that. A lot of my friends here in the session today will share that with you if you ask them, that women, and the statistics show this, that women seek external validation much more than men seek external validation. I am not saying that the system is not difficult to maneuver. What I am trying to share is that it will continue to be difficult, and it'll be impossible to sustain if your family, your workspace, and your society that you choose to be a part of is not aligned to what you need. So I want to share from my personal experience that I gave up 2 jobs, and I don't want to mention which ones. I have gone through a lot of them. I gave up 2 jobs when I realized that I had hit a glass ceiling. And now I had a choice. I had a choice to fight them and say, I am better than this, and you have to give me my share of space in the sun. I chose to move on. A couple of my colleagues said, you should be reporting this to HR. And some of them said that you're giving up too early. No, I wasn't giving up too early. I'm a very ambitious person. I don't have time to spend on changing people's mindsets, because for every 20, 30 people who are so narrow-minded that they can't change their perspective on how women are equals and your gender doesn't matter when you are performing a certain role, I am not here to convince them that it is different. That's their mother's job or their manager's job. If an organization doesn't work for me, I don't work for them. And like I said, and it's not like I don't have financial responsibilities. It is not like it hasn't given me a setback in my career, but my personal freedom matters a lot to me. So I agree with you, Geeta, that it's not an easy answer. There are no rights and wrongs, but you follow your heart. You do what feels right for you.
So one question that even Pooja is asking, which I'm also asking, this: how to get this personal clarity?
Okay, Ekta raised her hand.
Yes, I've asked her to unmute. I'll go to Ekta, but Pooja and I are asking you this question again.
There's a reason why I'd like Ekta to speak first, and then probably we'll get better
Okay,
personal.
Ekta, go ahead.
Ekta,
Hi everyone listening in from Toronto. My question is sort of like a comment, but I also have a question. So you said something about women needing external validation. Chanpreet, you and I both know that there are many women who don't need that validation because they have worked hard to gain that self-confidence. Can you speak a little bit on how women and their ambition is perceived. So, like when men speak with passion, they're ambitious. When women speak passionately or confidently, they're bitches, right? So I want you to kind of speak a little bit on that. And I wanted to just say one thing that I have learned in my life. It's the same in the nonprofit sector. So while there are more women in the nonprofit sector, you will see that we are adhering by the same standards. It's a little bit more relaxed, but we have the same stereotypes. We have the same issues to unfortunately break down. And the one thing that I've realized is that to get clarity, you have to surround yourself with a great sisterhood. You have to surround yourself with women who get it, who get what you want, and who can support you. We don't need people to pull us down. There's enough people in the world to do that. So that's how we get clarity. That's how we find our voice, so that we're not bringing it in an environment that may not yet be ready to support our confidence and ambition. You know what I'm saying? So I want you to speak about how women are perceived when they speak confidently or ambitiously.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Ekta. And okay, so absolutely right. There are few women who don't need validation, but it's not that they don't need validation. Like you rightly said, Ekta, it's that they have found a source which is more reliable for their validation. Sukirti, you and I met through a very interesting group, right?
Yes.
I just want to share with everybody, and this is in line with Ekta, what you said about sisterhood. We met in a social gathering which was for women only, women for women. You want to call it in a more charitable way, but actually it was an old girls club which was telling each other exactly what they needed to know, with the questions they couldn't ask everybody else. Whether it was, what should I be charging for my for my fees? How should I be negotiating in a difficult situation at work? Everything that one needs to feel supported and validated, to be able to share your stories and realize you're not alone in this. So yes, sisterhood plays a very important role. For me personally, Sukirti, that has been the case. My personal clarity came from a point of complete dissonance, actually, where I realized that I was not fitting into my own family structure. Okay. There was a vision that my family created for me, which was that I would get married before I was 20 and bear beautiful children and be a lovely housewife. I couldn't make tea to save my life, and I didn't want to. Okay. It took me 1.5 years to rehearse this line, to tell my father that I don't want to get married. Now, because I didn't align to the vision that my parents had for me, which was, there's nothing wrong with that vision. That's okay. They had this vision for me. I was also pushed into defining what the vision was for me. And I think that was the first step to clarity. And I think that's very important as well. You need to define a vision for yourself. And it doesn't mean that it will define at the age of 18 what I will be at the age of 40. Who knows? Okay. Who knows what I will be 5 years from now or 3 years from now? But you need to have a plan for yourself. Whether that plan works, doesn't work is a separate story. Secondly, to know whether your vision is right or not, or whether it's doable or not, or whether it's something that you have the power to pursue or not. The only thing that differentiates from people who can and cannot do it are people who have a very trusted circle of friends or family who will be able to support them. Hopefully it is a mix of both, but even if you don't have family support, and in many cases you don't have family support, please don't make the mistake, as you even grow in your career, to surround yourself with people who are just sycophants. Surround yourself with people who have the power to tell you where you're going wrong, because they are the real people who will actually tell you how to build your confidence. And yes, Geeta, internal courage is very important. No dream is easy. Having the courage to pursue it is everything, but it's also the courage to accept your failures, accept where you need to change, and then move on. And one of the things that has personally helped me a lot is my meditation practice. You know, when you are traveling, there are highs, there are lows. You take failure personally. You take you think you are the job sometimes, that people love Chanpreet, they don't love the CEO. And then if the title splits and then you see the reality, it could be a very different reality. You know, I know a lot of people can relate to that. And the thing that has kept me really sane is my very close friends, and I'm very proud to admit that I'm only surrounded by the most brilliant women in I have ever known. It's not because I come from a girls' school. Everywhere I went, I just found these brilliant women who were there for each other, who were not, they nothing stereotypical about them. They've supported their friends through the toughest times, has been the first ones to call out the bullshit, and they're the first ones to tell you when you are right, even if the world thinks you are wrong. So you need those 3 4 people who are very close to you.
So
Yes.
Madhvi is also sharing. I've asked her to unmute, but she's not. After that, we'll go to Nitin and then to Harsh. But Madhvi is sharing, I had to quit the corporate job for my son when he had a fracture. My husband was not ready to take the responsibility. She had got that job after 7 rounds of interview.
So sorry to hear that.
So I think it is very, very hard. Go ahead, Nitin. You had also a question.
Yeah.
Hi, Nitin.
Hi, Chanpreet.
Hi.
Amazing presentation, and I'm so glad that I just made it in time for the session. Love listening to the thoughts. I have one question for you. I mean, COVID has been such a teacher, right, for a lot of us folks. And rather than, say, for example, speaking for other men, I would say, personally for me, it's been a great teacher in terms of balancing home, trying to do work at home and then trying to also manage work,
Yeah.
all of that. So it has taught several lessons to each one of us, I think. Moreover, it has taught us how to balance home and work. Do you think from that perspective, it's an opportune time, COVID is an opportune time to bring up this whole aspect of balance and actually, there's been one gender who's been leading this entire balancing act. So how about, bringing some voice out now and engaging in a discussion with everyone and seeing, who has to say what about balancing?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you should be doing that. You should be leading from the front. What are your views on that? I mean, honestly, is this been an eye opener for you, or is this been something you saw? What about your friends who have kids? How have they dealt with it?
See, I personally, for me, Chunpreet, there have been some really interesting facts, right? So, for example, we have a cook at home. So both me and my wife, we don't cook our breakfast, right? But my wife she's working from office, while my team has chosen to work from home. So that means that I have to cook my breakfast right in the morning, cook for her whatever she likes between the two of us, and then make sure that I'm still in time for my first huddle, the team huddle. For me, that entire balancing act every day has been a great learner. And initially, it was very irritating initially.
Yeah.
So it was very irritating, and to just do that small change, and that made me reflect and think, how about my women friends, how about my family? They've been adjusting with this, and most of them take care of so many other aspects. I've just given you one example. So for me, it's been a re-realization. For me personally, my mother has been my best teacher. She's been the most patient teacher because I was a very naughty kid.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for me, I think the re-realization of what it is to balance, I think it's a great feeling. And I feel this conversation needs to be done openly, very openly,
Yes, I agree.
without all that, all that memes and sarcasm of,
Yeah.
who's washing utensils and all of that. Come on, guys.
That it's time to move on. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, I agree. No, thanks for sharing. I hope more people are having such realizations, because unfortunately, the statistics are showing something completely different, Nitin. The statistics are showing that while people have done a lot of balancing act right now, but what is expected now is that given the extended schooling from home situation, women are going to be the ones staying back. and the pay gap and the gender parity is going to get really negatively affected in the next 5 years, because you're going to see a long-term impact of what happens now. So if schooling from home happens, unfortunately, we're seeing more women drop out of the workforce. It is not a balanced perspective right now, at least.
Yeah, I think that I could not agree more, because COVID times are showing that actually more burden has come on the woman rather than it becoming a shared responsibility. So she's got now to take care of the home, the in-laws, the husband, and the kids.
So I just want to add one thing, as a team, we hired more women through February to now, and there are more women getting hired on my team, because our realization is they balance it better, and they have never got even one thing missing. So in my team, my top performers are women, by the way.
Harsh, go ahead.
Hi, Jampreet. How are you?
It's great to see so many men joining us. I love it.
Yeah, I've just got married last year. I think your talk is really going to help me a lot. And now my question to you is that I come from a fairly conservative background, right? Now my wife is also working. Now, whenever we go to a social gathering or whenever we go to such events, everyone whosoever asks that what are you doing, so they generally ask me first. And if they like what I'm doing, they'll shower me with kind words and everything. But when they ask my wife, what are you doing? And she tells her, they're not even interested in it. But it seems like they just want to give 30 seconds and just move forward that halwa kya banai, like you said. So what would you advise me as a husband that I can do?
I'm so glad you asked her. It's such a empathetic question, and I'm really glad you asked. The first thing you can do is you can volunteer to talk about her work and how proud you are and how much her persona contributes to you in your being, not just at home, that you're really happy that you get really great food at home or your life is sorted, but how both of you enrich each other. The more you talk about it, the respect has to come from you. The world doesn't matter, right? You both are married. You cannot change your society immediately, but when you decide to change by talking about it, that's when everybody else will start to take notice. And I just want to share that this is one of the most empathetic men I have met in my life, in any case, who, if you go to see him, he'll bring a tray of beautiful water-filled glasses and serve you with full pride, and at the same time give you advice on stock market.
Thank you so much. I didn't call you Chachi because I know you don't like it.
Yeah, no, that's okay. But this is a very important question, Harsh, that it is your empathy and your acknowledgement of your wife as a person first, and your relationship second, is what is going to make all the difference. If nobody else is talking about it, you should talk about it, because you are what matters.
Thank you.
So Chanpreet, one last question. We talked about that first, you've got to have that personal clarity. Then you've got to create that structure, right? Both in terms of, and then of course we come to the co-parenting aspect. But a lot of people are not able to create that structure. And they feel that, look, the burden has come on them. And how can they now actually get to that and say, okay, can I create at least some part of this structure to help me be more successful at work? Or create that structure in the office, because we're not talking only about home. We're talking all home, society, and of course your personal life. All these structures need to come together to be successful.
So there is one thing that has helped me, and there's not an easy answer, Sukriti. It is persuasion. Okay. Every time you propose something, people will tell you,
ये नहीं होगा,
ये होता ही नहीं है, ऐसा होता ही नहीं है.
कौन सी दुनिया में रहती हो?
Yeah. How many times you've heard this, right? Like, तुम ऐसा सोचती कैसे हो? Or your naked ambition is too stressful for us to hire you. Good for me. Good for me, because you said it earlier. I have learned there is no easy solution except two things. Stick to your ground and be reasonable, but at the same time continue to educate people around you. It took me 1.5 years to tell my parents that I didn't want to get married and I wanted to study. It took me 2 years to convince my husband that, listen, we can have a second child and I can still have a career, right? He obviously knew that the career clarity was there, but being parents of 2 children was a bit too much. But it takes persuasion and it takes a lot of hard work. It is not easy. You will have to educate the people around you, and it will take time. But if you just stay at it, people will change. You cannot negotiate. My last advice to you would be, please don't negotiate from a point of weakness. You are not weak. You are unique. And you are somebody who is more insightful than the other person, which is why you're asking for something they've never asked for before. You know, somebody told me, no one's ever asked us for a feeding room. I'm like, that is not my problem. Okay, that nobody else asked you for a feeding room. I am asking. So answer my question today. Stand your ground, be reasonable, and be persuasive, right? Negotiate. Yes, Ekta, I completely agree that we have to negotiate from a point of strength. You don't need anything if it doesn't come with basic respect and collaboration. And there are very good people out there. Have the faith. It will work out. You know, it may take a little longer, but it works out. But there's one point, Sukirti, you had made when we were chatting up earlier. I have just one request. Please be honest. Be compassionate, but please be honest. You know, when you're choosing your partner, when you're choosing your workspace, when you're choosing your manager, please let them know who you really are. Don't worry that they'll get scared of your ambition. Don't be scared that, you know, if you talk about your children, if you talk about your responsibility of aging parents, what if you're a caregiver of an old parent who needs help? There is unpredictability in your system. I have a friend, I just want to share this last point. I have a friend who's the MD of a very big FMCG company in India. He has parents who are in their late 70s, very ill. And he has a 6-month-old son and a stay-at-home wife. He didn't say no to the job when they asked him to move from Delhi to Bombay. He moved everybody with them. That's how a man thinks. He thinks from a position of strength. I am the provider. I am providing for my family. I will be able to take us. I'm moving from a house in Delhi to a small flat in Bombay, but I will take a flat in Bombay so close to my office that if my parents need to go see a doctor, I will be able to do it in 30 minutes during my lunch break instead of saying no to this job. He did it. He's my hero, right? And he negotiated from a point of strength. He asked for more money, as simple as that. What would I have done? My family will not move. My husband will not move. Arey kaise hoga? School mein admission ho chuka hai. My children will not move. We need to take a step back from our own self and ask the questions all over again.
Very nice. I think Madhvi has a question. Madhvi, if you can unmute and ask your question. And
it is Saujanya on Madhvi's name. I had a question.
Yes.
Can I?
Yes, please.
Yeah. 1 second. I'm putting my video also. Suppose if the husband is not willing to work and he doesn't want to be in the provider's role, how should the female respond?
Are you willing to be in the provider's role? Then go for it.
Then he should be at least a stay-at-home husband, right?
Of course,
to take care of the nurturing the children and all. And if he is not willing to take up any of the roles, like laid-back lifestyle, खिलाएगी, खिलाने दो, पिलाएगी, पिलाने दो, I'll be at home, I'll take care of, I mean, I'm happy with whatever I'm doing. Then how should a wife respond, or how should a woman go ahead, move ahead with regard to her ambitions? I'm sorry.
Is it all right if I ask Ekta to pitch in here? Because I think she's a better expert at giving this, responding to this answer.
Please go ahead, Ekta.
Yes, please.
Hi. So that is a very important thing, and it happens on both sides of the spectrum.
Yes.
Like we talked about during COVID, that women have to do everything, and there is pressure on women to do everything anyway. Like for me, I want to be the best at work. I want to be the best at home. I want to be the best wife, best mother, best at everything. And what you're describing is another situation where, you know, it's seemingly that the roles are reversed, but it seems like the person doesn't want to do anything. You have to ask yourself this: do I really need this? Do not, like, what am I willing to do here? How much of it is okay with me? It is important that both people are sensible and negotiate what is acceptable to both of them. But in the end, you will have to know what your boundaries are. How much are you willing to break your back supporting everybody and their neighbor while you are, trying to just be yourself and live your life, right? So we also have to learn to say no. Put your foot down, and be like, I will do this, this. I need this from you. And if not, there is a breakdown in communication, and it is not your fault, because in a relationship, we always need two people to come halfway, right?
True. Correct. Agree.
Thank you, Ekta. Thank you, Chanpreet, for a very, very candid conversation. I think this is one of the most candid conversations we've had on Sipping Thoughts. Any last words, Chanpreet, before we sign off for today and wish everyone a good night?
This is not a race. The journey is the reward. Just follow your heart and it will work out. Really.
Wow. Thank you. Thanks you everyone for joining us. And once again, please do check out Sipping Thoughts. We do have lots of amazing presentations, lots of excellent content, and we'd love to see you back at one of our webinars or Let's Talk. So see you again. With that, I wish you all a very, very good night. Thank you, Chanpreet, again.
Bye-bye.